All right, welcome back in. This is the Clay Edwards Show, hour number 3. I bet some of y'all are banging your head against the steering wheel right now. Like, why won't this guy just go away? I'm not going away. It could be all Clay all day, every day here soon. Y'all keep on. All right, man, we're live here in the Mac Hike of Flowood Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Studios. And what we're going to do now, we're going to start off a new weekly segment. And I'm really, really looking forward to this. It was something Mike Madison did every week on his show. And we've recently brought Allison Nooe in as a guest on my show one day. I introduced her to Mike. They started doing his health show together. It went over really, really well as Mike was getting ready to change careers, and we didn't want to waste that momentum. And Allison and I have good chemistry, and she's agreed to come on every Monday with me from 9 to 10. It's going to be called the Whole Story Health Hour. Mm-hmm. And this is not the Clay Edwards Show, so let's leave the last 2 hours there. If you want to call in, you got any questions about what we're doing now, what we're talking about this hour, the phone line is 601-879-0002. You can still text me also. The Guns and Gear text line is 769-241-1944. If you have any questions, maybe you're too shy to call. I understand that. And as this evolves, it's going to be more about Allison and less about me. But for now, here we are. Allison, introduce yourself. Tell people who you are that might not know.
Hey, yeah, so Allison Nooe. I am the owner and founder of a little business called Whole Story Health. So I was quite original in naming this show. I was talking to my mom about what in the world am I going to call my show? And I thought about the Madison Health Hour because Mike did such a great job and I wanted to, pay a little homage to him, but I didn't want people to think, well, this is just for people in Madison. So my mom said, well, you're going to be talking about men and women's health, right? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, what about Whole Story Health? So anyway, I primarily work with women who have some sort of hormone and or metabolic dysfunction. You can't really separate the two. So my clients are generally just feeling like crap, can't get rid of the weight, can't sleep, have no energy, very tired, wired kind of thing. Maybe some are struggling with infertility or going through perimenopause, menopause. So that's my typical client, but I have in the past worked with men and women, and I take a holistic approach to health because it is my firm belief that we have much more power to control our health. And when we start introducing a bunch of pharmaceutical interventions, our health starts to degrade, and we don't have to rely on medicine for health, but we don't know what to do as a society because we're not taught how to be well, and you kind of have to go against the grain these days. So,
I think speaking for myself here, so if I say I think generalities here, maybe I'm the only person that thinks this. I think holistic medicine has gotten a bad rep over the years. It's kind of, you just think of a bunch of hippies out on a commune somewhere living off the land and, I ain't taking that medicine, bro, or the OG anti-vax moms, stuff like that, But I think post-COVID and with the frontline doctors and COVID vaccines and all that stuff, I think a lot of eyes have opened up to just how evil Big Pharma is. Mm-hmm. And, hey, you know what? We as humans have been around about 1 million years, depending on what you believe or don't believe, this, that, and the other. I think we can agree on that. And we survived without Big Pharma to be around as long as we have. How did we do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were many blessings of COVID. It was full-on exposure. We're conspiracy theorists now look, pretty intelligent, right?
I saw a great meme last night. It said, what news source is the most dependable? And it said conspiracy theorists 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yep. There's a reason why holistic health, chiropractors, and the like have a bad rep. And it has everything to do with who funds this world. When we look at how the education system was bought out and then was integrated with the medical school system, and then you have Big Pharma, and then you have the food industry, and it's all tied together. And here I am sounding like a huge conspiracy theorist, but this is real deal fact. And so we are trained by these systems, quote unquote systems, to think, oh, this is just quackery. You can't achieve health on your own. You must rely on doctors. Who are you to say X, Y, Z? I think COVID really bred a new era of free thinkers. And if we're ever going to get our health back, we've got to start thinking freely.
So I've been on a regimen of vitamins and stuff and a multivitamin. We've talked about getting sugars out of the diet, this, that, and the other. Recently, since the last time you and I spoke, on a Thursday, started feeling bad here. I went straight from here to my doctor in Richland, my family doctor, and very solid guy, solid guy. I'm not telling you I don't see your doctor and get advice. I'm just saying there's other ways to skin this thing. But I got diagnosed with COVID and flu simultaneously. That was on a Thursday. By Saturday night, I was negative for the COVID, and I was out celebrating New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I felt 100%, but I felt good enough that I wasn't faking it.
Yeah.
And I solely contribute that to a change in my health. I mean, a lifestyle change, not a diet, a lifestyle change. I'm probably taking in 90% less sugar this year than I did any previous year in my life. And I think that paid in the vitamins and stuff. And as far as the flu side, I did get the what's that flu medicine they give everybody?
Tamiflu.
Tamiflu. I think that obviously helped. I think there are some medicines out there that helps, but that don't explain being COVID free and out of the house. I had COVID last January and was sick in bed for 2 weeks. I was out roaming around within 3 days this time.
There's so much to be said about how your immune system responds when you clean your life up. You know, one of the biggest beat downs on our immune system is all this processed sugar. It kills it. So yeah, I mean, your immunity has gone way up, which is great, which does not mean that you won't get sick on occasion, but your recovery time, like you've noticed, will be cut down drastically, and you'll be a lot less prone to getting sick. And there's a lot more to that too. We have to manage our stress levels, and that's something that I want to talk about quite a bit today.
Good.
Because it is contributing to male infertility and andropause. So,
well, let's take a call here, and then we will get into what you want to talk about.
Sounds good.
Hey, caller, you're on there.
Hey, y'all are talking about these vitamins and stuff, and I'm fully on board with it. I don't even know how many a day, but I've been on blood pressure medicine for years, and I've been trying for a long time to get off of them. I recently came across nitrates. What I've heard is if you take a nitrate supplement, it will ease your blood vessels.
Hey, you're cutting out on us, brother. We're going to answer that off air. Thank you, man.
I will not, I do not think that I need to give that kind of advice on this show. I think that lifestyle plays a huge role in blood pressure. So anything that you can do to decrease stress, increase the quality of your sleep and the quantity of your sleep, cut out processed foods, get sunlight, all of this I'm going to go over in detail in a minute. That will help lower blood pressure. But as far as how you're treating that medically, I don't want to get in trouble, and I don't know enough about your situation, and I'm not well versed on nitrates with blood pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I know from a bodybuilding standpoint, nitrates and NO2 and stuff like that is it's encouraged because it opens up your blood vessels and gets things flowing better. As far as blood pressure stuff, I don't know. I'm with you on that. I don't want to give you bad advice, but I am going to look into that now. So I appreciate the heads up there.
It was a great question, and keep up what you're doing to work on that from a holistic perspective too. One thing that is really important to understand, and I feel like the caller was trying to express that he's also doing other things, so he's not just relying on this. But for all ailments and disease, there is not one supplement or one pill or one line of action you can take that's going to be the say-all, end-all. It's a conglomeration of healthy lifestyle factors, and you don't have to get it all right at once, but as you start to master one or two things, then you start incorporating more.
Well, good stuff. I tell you what, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to discuss male menopause today.
Yep.
Are you suffering from it? Am I suffering from it? We'll find out on the other side of this break. This is the Whole Story Health Hour with Allison Nooe and Clay Edwards. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules. Welcome back into the Whole Story Health Hour here on 103.9 WYAB with Allison Nooe and myself, Clay Edwards. This is our first show here. Really excited about it. We kind of gave you an introduction of what this is, who Allison is, and kind of what you can expect with that first segment. And thank you to Rick for calling in with his question. I'll try to get you an answer on that. But Allison, you wanted to talk today about male menopause. Mm-hmm. I'm 45. This feels right in my demographics wheelhouse. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, so it's called andropause. So androgens are the male dominant reproductive hormones, right? Like testosterone. But did you know, so women, don't tune out. Number one, if you're married, this is going to be wildly beneficial because you're likely, you have some influence over the meals at your house. But also, that women actually have more testosterone than estrogen. So we think estrogen when we think of women, like that's all we're made of, and that's just not true.
I have a great personal story, not personal, but a great story about a woman getting a testosterone therapy here lately, mm-hmm. and it completely changing her life.
Yeah, so we're seeing women suffer from low testosterone too, and you feel like crap. But andropause, so this is what men experience when they start to drop in those, male dominant reproductive hormones. So the peak of a man's reproductive hormone is around 20. And then early to mid 30s, men start to decrease in androgens and testosterone by about 1% a year, or that's what it's supposed to happen anyway. So you're really not feeling the effects of that until, maybe late 40s or 50s even. But right now, because of our, food and lifestyle, we're seeing a major drop in testosterone for men very early on. So they are going through this process much earlier. So some symptoms are going to be things like, what's your sexual health look like? Erectile dysfunction, lack of want, but also thinning hair. Sleeplessness, low energy, low bone density. So there are a lot of things that happen when we start to drop, especially prematurely, in these male reproductive hormones.
No, look, I could tell, and I told you I'm doing testosterone replacement therapy myself, and I can look back, and that's another big change over the last year as I started reevaluating my health and my life and all that stuff. I was like, man, there's libido, and not just like sexual health, but energy to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. Can't sleep good when I'm in bed. Just motivation. I used to be very driven, and I've gotten back to getting that way. I used to be very driven. I didn't need any motivation. I was always go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. And I'd kind of lost that. And since getting some testosterone replacement therapy, I have noticed that about 3 months in now, I've noticed just a drastic difference in I'm constantly moving forward and just feel better. Depression, anxiety,
yep.
All of that stuff has come down.
Yeah.
Now I'm in no mood to be reproducing anything anymore in my life, so I'm not necessarily concerned about sperm count or anything like that. But everything else that would contribute to that has got to be is up around me. So I'm assuming that would be up too.
Yeah, yeah. And TRT is something that I think could be used temporarily even, but with you making these lifestyle changes, you're supporting your body's own production of it again. So it may be something that you could taper off of.
Gotcha.
So something to look into, and I don't want to leave you with just this doom and gloom of like, okay, well, men are just losing these reproductive hormones at massive rates, because there are things that we can do about this. So some of I was telling Clay on the break, I do not like the one pill approach to fixing anything. But when we look at your lifestyle as a whole, how are you managing stress? This is going to be one of the most important things. So we live in a society that says, go, 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 do, don't sleep, and
sleep when you're dead.
Yeah, you can sleep when you're dead. Well, you're going to get there a lot sooner if you don't start paying attention to quality sleep and managing your stress. But it's really important because our primary stress hormone, cortisol, when it gets super elevated, your body is producing this at the cost of other things. So your body will start producing cortisol when you are in high stress all the time, at the cost of your reproductive hormones, at the cost of your bone mineral. So that's something to think about. It's a give and take, right? So if you are constantly stressed and you're not doing anything about it, then there are reasons that stress is one of the number one killers, because it starts to take from all of these other physiological and biological responses needed to be well, to live well, and to live a long time.
Well, elephant in the room here. People always say, relieve stress, relieve stress. How?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the number one things you can do is put your phone away. Do you know that that's one of the number one causes of elevated stress and cortisol? Because we feel responsible all the time to answer right away. We're checking all these news sources, social media, all these things that are pinging these little hits of cortisol. It doesn't have to be something massive that happens in your life. We have all these stressors all day long coming at us, and we're not doing anything to mitigate that. So put your phones down, shut the screens off earlier, and limit your access to that. Also, one of the most beneficial things you can do is get outside and get exposure to nature for even 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be that you're walking in a jungle. You can, as long as there are grass and trees, go take a short walk outside, getting sunlight. There are lots of ways that we can mitigate stress, making sure that you're sleeping enough. This is so important, because when you are sleep deprived, this sends all sorts of stress signals throughout your body. Because remember, and I'll say this a million times on this show, our bodies are still biologically wired as if we are primitive beings, living in caves. And so when our primitive ancestors had interruptions in their sleep for extended periods of time, it was because there was danger present. So then the survival mechanisms start to kick in. And again, you start to become more resistant to insulin. You are, you have elevated cortisol, which diminishes oxytocin, which is that thing that can cause peace in our body. So all these things happen. So if you aren't sleeping, you're setting yourself up for disaster too.
That's interesting. I try to get about 7 hours a night. Okay. It probably ends up being about 6.5 to 7, depending. I try to go to bed by 10, wake up at 5, or 10:30, wake up at 5:30 is kind of my line of demarcation if I'm going to get up and be on time. Uh-huh. So I try to get about 7 hours a night. And I feel like if I'm consistent with that, and then say 1 or 2 other days a week, typically Friday night, Saturday night, where I don't have to come do the show, I can lay in bed a little longer, get a little extra rest, and kind of make up for it there. But there is no time for naps or anything like that during the day. Right.
Yeah. If you do have a little bit of time for maybe a 20-minute nap, then, take it if you need it. So Dr. Andrew Huberman talks about a non-sleep rest. So follow him on Instagram if you are interested in making some really cool changes, and look at his research and his recommendations for this non-sleep rest. It's pretty cool. And so it has all these physiological components that can start to mitigate stress physiologically. Something else that you can do to mitigate stress is breathing. How often do we walk around and we haven't taken one good breath all day? Do you ever just stop and take a deep breath and you're like, holy crap, that felt amazing?
I haven't been wearing my Apple Watch, but one of the things I do like about it is it'll tell you time to breathe. You can set, these little things.
Oh, that's awesome.
Stand up and you've been sitting down too long. Yeah. And it seems like these Captain Obvious things that we should know. But when you get the little ping on your watch, it's like, hey, you know what? I can make an argument for us all being way too tied into technology and yada yada yada. But that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, let's use it to our advantage, right? There are pros and cons. Take those pros and use them to our health advantage for sure. I think that's a great idea. Reminding yourself to drink water, which will help lower stress physiologically, and to move our bodies. So our bodies get stressed out when we're sedentary too long. So when we think of stress, we think of this is a stressful world, whatever. But there are so many things that cause a physiological stress response that we're not thinking of. Are we getting in proper movement? Are we getting enough exposure to sunlight? What does the quality of our food look like? Processed foods will raise that stress response in your body so quickly. So, look at 80% of your diet, whole foods.
Yeah. I know you saw my Facebook post last night where I posted the picture of the steak that I cooked. 100% grass-fed, no antibiotics, all that stuff from locally sourced Stonington farms.
Grass-finished, too.
Yeah, grass-fed and finished. Yeah. 100%, no grain.
Yeah.
And the fat tastes a little different than what you're used to, but the meat was phenomenal. I mean, it's like eating healthy is so much easier than people think it is. I mean, you got to maybe go out your way a little the first time to figure it out and this, that, and the other. But once you get into that rhythm and you break that fast food, processed food chain, it is so much easier to be healthy than people think it is. And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun learning how to eat healthy and good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be a lot of fun learning how to cook healthy. I was having this conversation with my boyfriend this weekend that one of the reasons that cooking our food is so beneficial for us is because the digestion process actually starts in the mouth. Right. So in our saliva, we have certain enzymes that are ready to break down food. So when you're preparing your food and you're mentally getting excited about it, your biology responds by excreting this saliva that has these enzymes. Well, we live in a culture now, or a world now, where it's like, go pick something up. Everything is instantaneous. So no wonder we're all walking around with really poor gut health, because we haven't given our bodies the appropriate time to create these enzymes that help break our food down, which is another stressor on the body.
Let me ask this. Speaking of like gut health, you hear a lot about taking probiotics and stuff like that. That's kind of expensive. It's basically about $1 a day. But you got to go spend $30 on a bottle at, say, Walgreens, for example, or somewhere. Is there a natural probiotic, like a food that we can eat that has the probiotic if I wanted to bypass the pill?
There are a lot. Fermented foods. So think a live sauerkraut. Whole Foods has several of those. Any fermented food, really. You can Google how to ferment your own food, and it's going to be a lot less expensive. A live Greek yogurt is good for that if you can tolerate the dairy. Yeah. So, and then just making sure that you are getting in adequate vegetables. The carnivore is all the rage right now, and it's not a bad thing. I've actually used that with some clients in line with other lifestyle interventions to heal the gut. So that is actually something that can promote good gut health. But what is the meat that you're eating? What did they eat? And what were they exposed to? So that's why something like Stonington Farms is something that you really need to take advantage of. Grass-fed, grass-finished, no antibiotics, because going back to andropause, a huge contributor to excess androgen and lower testosterone in men is compromised meat. So meat that's been pumped full of these antibiotics, which compromise the immune system, as well as these growth hormones, so they get more out of their meat faster.
Gotcha. All right, let's take a break real quick. This is the Whole Story Health Hour with Allison Nooe and Clay Edwards. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back in. This is the Whole Story Health Hour with Allison Nooe and Clay Edwards. This segment is going to be brought to you by our friends at A1 Gear and Auto, located right there on Highway 49 South in Florence, Mississippi. Where you got brakes, water pumps, auto repair, they do it all. Your check engine light on, go see them. What they really specialize in, though, is your ring and pinion and axles and all that good stuff on the bottom side of your vehicles that make them go. If you've upgraded to some bigger wheels and tires, you need to get by there and let them upgrade your ring and pinion. You also need to upgrade your brakes, too, if you've gotten bigger wheels and tires. But that's another conversation for another day. But anything automotive related, get out there to A1 Gear and Auto, located right there on 49 South in Florence. You can find them online. Just search A1 Gear and Auto, or you can give them a call today, 601-939-1065. All right, I'm joined in the studio this morning with Allison Nooe. We're discussing a lot of men's health stuff this morning, a lot of stress relievers, and that goes men or women, right? And one of the things we were talking about during the break a little bit was, some people, like, the hardest thing to do sometimes is just get started.
Yeah.
It's so much information out there. It can just be absolutely overwhelming. It's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I said, man, if you'll just start eating a little healthier, try to cut the common sense sugar stuff out of your diet. I've lost 60 pounds, or actually 70 if you count the 10 I gained back and lost again, pounds in the last year. And I've yet to count a macro, keep up with the ketones or any of this stuff, that you feel like it can be a little too much. It's like, how do I do that? I didn't. Yeah. I just went common sense. And you had some thoughts on that?
Yeah. This is one of the reasons that I love to step in and help the women I help, because it can feel insanely overwhelming and there's so much conflicting information out there. So my business mentor, she says, start with the 1-2. Okay. So I'll give you, if y'all want to pull out a pen and pad, if you're able, I'll give you a list of things that you can do that's beneficial for men and women when it comes to keeping our reproductive hormones in balance. And then pick 1 or 2 of those things and master those. 3 to 4 weeks into doing those, when they feel like they're part of your routine, add another one in. So you don't have to tackle all of this at once. There are people who are in dire straits who need an intervention ASAP. And then that's when they work with someone and maybe they tackle more than, but if you're just trying to keep your health on the up and up or be preventative, or even come in a little bit on the back end and you're not facing anything major, don't feel like you've got to take it all in at once.
You can, like this week, you could quit drinking soft drinks.
Yes.
Next week, cut out bread. The next week, pick something else more, further down the line.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're eating healthy, you're living healthier. If it's beer, cut the beer out, whatever it is. And instead of trying to go cold turkey all in day one, and that becomes overwhelming for people. Then they think if they end up eating a piece of bread or having a Coke or something, oh, well, I've sabotaged the whole thing. I might as well just stop.
Right. Yeah. This all or nothing mentality, which Lord knows I have been so guilty of in the past. I mean, I'm everything that I say don't do, trust me when I say I have done it. Okay. Yeah. So I've learned from my mistakes. So some things so here's a list, and pick a couple, pick 1 or 2. Getting daily sunlight, especially first thing in the morning. So when we are talking about, reproductive health, our body runs on a circadian rhythm. So it's this daily rhythm where we're getting signals from our environment to start letting go of certain hormones like adrenaline and cortisol in the morning. We need sunlight in the eyes because we have these brain cells in our eyes that take that information in, and it sets all these clocks. I've talked about this on Mike's show. So we get proper adrenaline and cortisol during the day to stay alert and focused, but it also sets that clock, that timer, so that at night we're getting that proper hit of melatonin to sleep well, right? So if you're delaying that clock being set, well, you may have adrenaline and cortisol in the evening when you're trying to sleep and you're not getting that melatonin until it's almost time to wake up. That's frustrating.
That's very interesting. I mean, you always heard you need some sunlight, but to actually hear the real why.
Yeah. That's
like
one of the many.
How your body works, reason why. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I just learned something there.
So it doesn't take much, 10 minutes of sunlight in the morning, and make it happen. Be creative. If you have to get to work a little early and walk around your parking lot or sit outside and have your coffee or water and do your devotion outside. That's my favorite thing to do in the summertime. In the winter, bundle up 10 minutes. You can, if I can do it and I hate the cold, you can do it. So sunlight, okay. Morning sunlight. That's an easy starter. Proper hydration. Okay. So we want to be drinking roughly half your body weight in ounces of water a day. And this helps for all sorts of cellular functions. And also, if you are going very clean with your eating and cutting out a lot of processed food, then you're cutting out a lot of salt. Sodium gets a bad rap. it depends on the type of sodium, and we can talk about that another time, but you want to make sure that you are keeping your electrolytes in balance. So think about adding a little sea salt to your water.
I was going to say, I'm not afraid of salt.
No.
Particularly, I use the pink Himalayan sea salt.
That's what I use.
And you can get it at any grocery store.
Yep.
I put it in my coffee in the morning, my bulletproof coffee. I put it on my foods.
Yeah.
Whatever else. I'm not worried about salt.
And here's why the pink salt or the sea salt is good, because it's still got the minerals intact. So it's that chemical compound of sodium. Table salt, on the other end, they use all kinds of stuff to make that stuff up. They bleach it. They use, there are derivatives of crude oil in there. I mean, there's all sorts of things. So that's super inflammatory. So yeah, you want to move towards the more natural, actual salt.
Yeah. Like when I seasoned my steaks last night, because I use a good rub, but I also do the sea salt.
Yeah, perfect.
It makes a great difference.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so household products. This can be quite overwhelming, and we do need to spend an entire hour talking about this one day. But there are so many endocrine, so our hormones, endocrine disruptors in all of these household products. If you have anything that quote unquote smells good, if it's not coming from some sort of essential oil, you want to get rid of it. All these fragrances, they are super toxic to our hormone system.
What about candles?
Candles, look at the quality of the candle. What is it burning? Where the fragrance is coming from. So there are a lot of good quality candles out there now. But I do not recommend shopping at that store that every female loves at Christmas time.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. I hate to name it.
Starts with a bed, ends with a beyond. Oh.
Close. Bath and Body. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Just know that, and these, things that we put in our car to smell good. It's when you cut those out and then you're exposed to them, your system is almost offended. I can't stand to be around it now.
So like my little Christmas tree, air freshener in my car is not good for me?
Yeah, no, but
really?
I don't do those. But when you start following the right people on Instagram, you'll start getting the right ads of all these like naturally oil soaked stuff you can put in your car. So
got it.
So yeah, in our cleaning products, vinegar is one of the best things that you can use to clean. All these other cleaning products, I mean, just check the ingredients, but major endocrine disruptors. There is an app. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it. Oh, it's called the Healthy Living app, and it's put together by it's the EWG Healthy Living app. Okay, this is the Environmental World Group, and they have done a ton of research on good versus bad quality products. So you can use this app and scan barcodes, and it'll give you a rating, and it'll tell you why it's good or why it's bad. So that makes life a lot easier, because to try to learn all of that stuff is completely overwhelming. So these people have done the work. They are a trusted source. So I really love that app. Strength training. So that's huge.
We've made it through the whole show without talking about, obviously the working out aspect to this.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you say working out, guys, girls, it doesn't mean going and hitting all the weights you can possibly do. It's just a little resistance training.
Yeah.
Goes a long way.
Yeah, it's resistance training. So if you are going to do cardio for heart health, respiratory health. And it's a good thing. It's not bad to do cardio, but do not negate the strength training process or the resistance training, because that does all sorts of different things. In fact, if you want to lean out, one of the best things you can do is do some resistance training. And the boost in testosterone for men and women is good. Women, you will not get a big enough boost to bulk up. So don't worry about that.
One of the things I've learned over the years and years and years of start, stop, failed diets, successful diets, working out, is this myth that you lose weight on the treadmill.
Yeah.
It's that you have to get on the treadmill to lose weight, that you have to do this crazy amount of cardio to lose weight. And that just simply is not true.
No.
Some strength training and diet, you'll lose all the weight you want to lose.
Yeah. And again, doing some cardiovascular training is good, obviously. But don't let it be your main source of exercise. So what happens, a lot of people, and I did this. So when you use like half marathon or marathon training to lose weight, you're going to lose weight at first. And then, so think back to our primitive ancestors. If somebody's running for an extended period of time, they're in danger, right? Their life is in danger. And so these survival mechanisms, this cortisol elevation starts to kick in because you are running so much or you are doing so much cardio, and cortisol and insulin play this dance. So it can actually cause insulin resistance. There are a lot of runners that are in that what's called a skinny fat, which means that they aesthetically look thin, but their organs are covered in fat. And this somewhat can be explained by the elevated cortisol levels because they're doing too much.
Well, it also eats away at your muscle and stuff too.
Yes, and your muscle atrophies, and there's so many benefits to healthy levels of muscle mass. So,
gotcha. All right, let's take our last break so we can come back without having to rush to end the show. This is the Whole Story Health Hour with Allison Nooe and Clay Edwards. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. To the last segment of today for Clay Edwards. This is the Whole Story Health Hour with Allison Nooe. We're live in the Mac Haik of Flowood Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Studios. 3 hours today, man. It's the first time I've done that much radio. It's been a good time. Allison, I want to thank you for coming out and taking a part in this. I'm really looking forward to see where all this goes for you, and for me too, for that matter. And you bring a lot of great information to the table. You got a workshop tomorrow for women, correct?
Yeah, so I am hosting an online event. It is a women's hormone and metabolic reset masterclass. So we're going to go in deep on how you can start integrating some lifestyle changes to reset your body, get it where you want to be. So if you're interested in that, if you want to email me at wholestoryhealth@gmail.com, that's whole with the W, wholestoryhealth@gmail.com, and I'll make sure to give you the discount code. So the price will go from $49 down to $29, and bring a notebook because it's going to be full of great stuff.
How long does something like that usually last?
We're looking at about 60 minutes. I do want to offer a quick Q&A after. So it may run into 90 minutes, but don't worry if you can't stay on the whole time. Everybody that signs up will get a recorded copy.
Oh, that's good stuff.
So it's just a Zoom. Yeah.
Good. And is this something you do regularly, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Women are, well, nobody is, but especially women, we're just not taught much about our bodies. And so that's my goal in life, is to teach women much earlier on so they don't have to go through some of the stuff that me and their mamas have gone through.
How can people keep up with you to find out when these workshops are going to be, and what's the best way to find you?
So I would love to be able to send you a weekly email. So I'm not going to blow your email up, but we do send out great recipes. We let you know about all the events coming out. And so that's a great way. If you'll email me at wholestoryhealth@gmail.com, I can get you added to the list. Also, I'm on Instagram as Allison Health Coach Nooe. My last name is Nooe, Nooe. So you can find me there. And then I'm on Facebook. So all the general social media stuff.
Good stuff. All right. And you have your podcast too, right?
Yeah. So I have the Landing Spot podcast, and that is for the ladies. That's where I have guests on that specialize in women's hormone and metabolic health.
All right, good stuff there. Well, look, we're going to be here every Monday, 9 to 10, discussing this stuff. Every week it'll be something different. Sometimes it'll be for men, sometimes it'll be for women, sometimes it'll be for both.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into all kind of comfortable and uncomfortable conversations as we go here. I mean, I'm not scared to lay all my health issues out there to maybe find a way to help somebody else prevent having those same issues. So, Allison, I'm looking forward to this. It was a great time. This podcast will be available as a standalone podcast on just search Clay Edwards Show, and if you only want to listen to this or share this, not all my political ramblings, this will be available, as well as the other 2 hours prior to this. So check that out, ClayEdwardsShow.com, or just search Clay Edwards Show wherever you listen to podcasts. Join me here tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Peace.